For thousands of years, the pyramids have stood as one of humanity's greatest mysteries. Massive stone structures built with astonishing precision and engineering that still challenges us today. The official story tells us that they were built around 2500 BC as tombs for the kings of Egypt's fourth dynasty. But there is a problem. Could a single dynasty, within only a few generations, truly have advanced from the step pyramid of Saqqara, built during the third dynasty, to the Great Pyramid of Khufu, a monument so precise that many of its engineering mysteries remain unsolved even today? And if the pyramids represented the peak, then why did the precision decline so rapidly in the dynasties that followed? Why did later pyramids become smaller, weaker, and far less sophisticated? And why did Shepseskaf, the son of Menkaure, choose not to build a pyramid at all, but instead construct a massive mastaba at Saqqara? Were the pyramids of Giza truly built around 2500 BC? Were they designed as separate tombs for separate kings, or were they part of a single unified master plan? And perhaps the most unsettling question of all, were the pyramids really built by the kings of the fourth dynasty? Or do they belong to a far older civilization, one that vanished long ago, leaving behind only monuments so extraordinary that later civilizations could imitate them, but never truly recreate them? Robert Bauval, a Belgian engineer, found his curiosity captured by a peculiar detail while studying an aerial photograph of the Giza pyramids at the Egyptian Museum. The three pyramids were not aligned in a perfect straight line. Khufu and Khafre stood almost perfectly aligned, but Menkaure, the third pyramid, appeared smaller, farther away, and slightly offset from the others. A subtle difference, yet one that would consume Bauval for decades. Searching for an explanation, Bauval encountered a book titled The Serious Mystery, written by Robert Temple. The book described the Dogon tribe, a primitive tribal people living in present-day in Mali, known for performing sacred rituals every 50 years, ceremonies connected to death, renewal, and the transmission of knowledge between generations. But what truly captured Bauval's attention was something else. The Dogon were said to possess advanced astronomical knowledge about Sirius, one of the brightest stars in the night sky. According to the tradition, Sirius was not a single star, but a system, a bright primary star, Sirius A, accompanied by a smaller companion, Sirius B, orbiting it every 50 years. Yet Sirius B cannot be seen with the naked eye. It was only discovered through telescopes in the 19th century and later photographed in the 20th. Robert Temple, the author of The Serious Mystery, believed that this astronomical knowledge may have been inherited from a far older civilization, one that existed long before the dynastic age of Egypt. Years later, during a desert safari in Saudi Arabia, Bauval stood beneath the night sky, observing the stars, when a friend, experienced in astronomy, pointed toward three bright stars in the constellation of Orion. Al-Natak and Al-Nilam appeared aligned in a straight line, brighter and more dominant. But the third star, Mintaka, was slightly offset and dimmer than the others. In that moment, Bauval believed he had finally found the answer to the mystery that had haunted him for years. The three pyramids of Giza, Khufu, Khafra, and Menkaura appeared to mirror the stars of Orion's belt, not only in their positions, but also in their relative sizes, distances, and brightness. Khufu and Khafra aligned together, while Menkaura, smaller and slightly displaced, matched the offset star, Mintaka. But Bauval did not stop there. If the pyramids of Giza mirrored Orion's belt, then perhaps the other pyramids of Egypt were also part of something far greater, a hidden pattern written across the land itself, searching for answers. Bauval turned to the pyramid texts, the oldest known religious writings of ancient Egypt, sacred inscriptions discovered inside the pyramids of Unas and Teti at Saqqara, texts created to guide the king on his journey into the afterlife. Among these writings, several passages captured Bauval's attention. One ancient text asked, "Have you carried me to the winding waterway? Have you placed me among the imperishable stars?" Another declared, "The winding waterway is flooded, and I cross to the eastern side of the sky, to the place where the gods created me, where I am born again." Again and again, the texts spoke of a celestial river and of the king's journey from west to east to dwell among the eternal stars. The ancient Egyptians believed that the stars were the realm of the gods, and many scholars came to believe that the winding waterway described in the texts was the Milky Way itself, a vast celestial river stretching across the night sky. Another ancient tradition, known as the Hermetic texts, described Egypt as the image of the heavens. And slowly, a radical idea began to emerge. What if Egypt itself had been designed as a reflection of the sky above? To Bauval, the Nile was not merely a river, it was the earthly reflection of the Milky Way. And the pyramids were not isolated monuments, built independently by different kings. They were markers, carefully positioned to mirror specific stars in the heavens. The pyramids of Giza reflected Orion's belt, Abu Rawash aligned with the star Saiph, Zawyet el Orion with Bellatrix, and the red and bent pyramids of Dashur corresponded to the stars of the Hyades. Bauval even argued that the red pyramid, with its reddish stone, may have been intended to mirror Aldebaran, the red giant star, known for its distinctive glow. And according to this theory, the bent pyramid was not a mistake, but part of a deliberate design, a design connecting Earth to the stars. In ancient Egypt, Orion was associated with Osiris, lord of the afterlife, Sirius with Isis, and the stars of the Hyades with Set, the killer of Osiris. In Egyptian mythology, the Egyptians called Orion Sa and Sirius Sopdet. The rising of Sirius marked the flooding of the Nile and the rebirth of life itself. To Bauval, this was no coincidence. Egypt had been designed according to a single, unified vision, a sacred landscape built as a mirror of the heavens. Bauval later published his theory in an archaeological journal, and for a time, the mystery remained there. But in the 1990s, something changed. For the first time, personal computers made it possible to simulate the ancient sky itself. Bauval obtained astronomical software used by astronomers to reconstruct the positions of stars across thousands of years, including the gradual shifts caused by the movement of the Earth. But another idea had already emerged decades earlier. In the 1960s, Egyptologist Alexander Badawi and astronomer Virginia Trimble proposed a remarkable theory. The Great Pyramid contains 4 narrow shafts, often called the star shafts. According to their calculations, 2 shafts from the king's chamber pointed toward Orion's belt and the star Thuban, while the shafts from the queen's chamber aligned with Sirius and the pole star. Their calculations suggested that around 2500 BC, one of the stars of Orion's belt aligned perfectly with the southern shaft of the king's chamber, and for many Egyptologists, this became one of the arguments supporting the traditional date for the construction of the pyramids. Bauval decided to test the theory himself. Using the software, he returned to the sky of 2500 BC. But something was wrong. The alignment was not exact. So Bauval went further back. 3500 BC, the dawn of dynastic Egypt, the age of Narmer, and the unification of the 2 kingdoms. Still, the alignment did not match. Yet Bauval noticed something strange. The farther back he traveled in time, the closer the angles became, as if the sky itself was slowly moving toward alignment. Bauval began searching through historical records, trying to understand how the age of Egyptian civilization had originally been determined. Champollion, the man who helped decipher hieroglyphs, once estimated the origins of Egypt to around 5867 BC. Auguste Mariette, founder of the Egyptian Museum, proposed a different date, around 5000 BC. Yet eventually, modern Egyptology settled on approximately 3200 BC, with the reign of Narmer and the beginning of the First Dynasty. But Bauval asked another question. Had the ancient Egyptians left behind records describing a far older past? One document drew particular attention: the Turin King List, one of the most important ancient Egyptian records. Though sadly heavily damaged, the papyrus contained hundreds of royal names, along with the years of their reigns. But what made the document unusual was its division into 3 eras: gods, demigods, and finally, human kings. The text referred to rulers unknown to mainstream history and pushed the timeline of Egypt thousands of years further into the past. Another source came from Manetho, an Egyptian priest and historian commissioned by Ptolemy II to record the history of Egypt. Using ancient temple archives, Manetho compiled a chronology stretching back tens of thousands of years. Though the original text was later lost during the destruction of the Library of Alexandria, fragments survived through later historians. These accounts spoke of mysterious ages before the dynasties. The followers of Horus, the Shemsu-Hor, and ancient rulers who existed long before recorded Egyptian history. Even Herodotus claimed that Egyptian priests told him hundreds of kings had ruled Egypt for more than 11,000 years. To Bauval, these traditions pointed toward a forgotten past. So he continued, moving backward through time: 5000 BC, 6000, 8000, 9000, until finally, the alignment appeared: 10,500 BC, the moment when the pyramids of Giza aligned with Orion's belt, while the Nile mirrored the Milky Way at an angle of 45 degrees. Bauval repeated the experiment, using different astronomical programs. Each time, the result remained the same, 10,500 BC. To Bauval, the builders of the pyramids had encoded a date, not in stone, but in the stars themselves, a date impossible to erase. Bauval later published his theory in the book, The Orion Mystery, igniting enormous controversy. Egyptologists rejected the theory entirely, arguing that there was no archaeological evidence supporting such claims. Most scholars maintained that the pyramids were part of a solar religion. Their sloping sides symbolized the rays of the sun. The pyramids themselves served as sacred monuments, helping the king ascend toward Ra, the sun god. And their placement west of the Nile reflected the ancient association between the West and death. But Bauval argued that the pyramids were built west of the Nile for another reason entirely, because the stars they mirrored also lay west of the Milky Way. In Bauval's view, the builders of the pyramids followed not a solar religion, but a stellar one. And by placing the origins of the pyramids in 10,500 BC, Bauval's theory directly challenged the timeline constructed by Egyptology over the last 2 centuries. But if he was right, then an unsettling question emerges. Does the story of ancient Egypt extend back thousands of years beyond recorded history? And how much of that forgotten past was lost long before the dynasties began? Were the pyramids truly built by the kings of the 4th dynasty, or were they inherited, just as we inherited them today? The remains of a civilization far older, far more advanced, and now completely vanished. A civilization that disappeared, leaving behind only impossible monuments, standing silently against the passage of time. But perhaps the greatest mystery still lies nearby, buried beneath the sands, watching the pyramids in silence for thousands of years, the Great Sphinx. Because in the next chapter, we will explore one of the most controversial questions in all of archaeology. Could the Sphinx be far older than the pyramids themselves? And if so, who was really there at the beginning of Egyptian civilization?